Welcome back to Coaches on the Beach, and today we have a very accomplished athlete and a gold medal winning coach, Angie Akers, joining us. She's now the assistant coach at UT, and that's Texas, and they've been on the rise ever since they started their program a couple years ago, and it's a great episode to get to hear her thoughts and also how the journey's been at Texas so far. Hope you enjoy this one.
By the way, I was reading all your bio and just to try to refresh myself a little bit on some fun Angie Akers facts. And I love no matter where you look yourself up, one of the things that's mentioned every single time is Boston Marathon finisher in 3 hours and 21 minutes. Like every time, or 3 hours and 24 minutes. No matter where it is, BVB info, Texas
Follows me
website,
around.
LMU website.
Yeah. It's
What
funny.
sparked you doing that? Were you playing
Is
overseas?
Oh, do you mean like actually running the marathon?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So in between when I stopped playing indoor volleyball, I was just missing that competitive, like just something to compete in. And Jeremy, my husband, was playing in the NFL at the time. And so we were in Atlanta, and one of his teammates' wife was trying to qualify for the Olympics in like the 800. And so we made friends. And so would drag me out on runs with her, and I would be absolutely dying. And like she'd be talking the whole time, and I'd be like, just like trying to catch my breath, anything to stay up. But it was just like a fun way to be with somebody else, meet people, and get a good workout in. And so she encouraged me to sign up for a marathon. And so I was like, okay, yeah, sounds like a good idea. So I did it and completed the Myrtle Beach Marathon. Didn't know anything about Boston and qualifying times or anything like that. We end up moving to San Francisco a couple months later, and I joined a running club just because I wanted to continue to stay in shape and meet people. And it was literally 3 days before the deadline to sign up for the Boston Marathon. And some of the other runners were just talking about it, like, "Oh, did you guys sign up yet?" And I'm like, "Sign up for what?" And they're like, "The Boston Marathon." I'm like, "Oh, like what's it can they we're talking about qualifying times and all that." And I'm like, "Well, what's a qualifying time?" And so we started talking about it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I think I qualified by like 20 seconds." And I'm like, so then I go home, check, and I did. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was 6 weeks till the marathon." And I was like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sign up." So I did, and it was such a different training than the training I'd done before. Like with the track team, we were doing tons of sprints and 400s, and it was just it was led by a track coach who was training people for marathons. So I just kind of like was in that mix, and without even like strategizing for it, just kind of was exposed to it. So that was really fun, but it paid off huge for the marathon. I ended up taking, I don't know how many, like 16 minutes off my previous qualifying time, or I don't even remember what it was. But anyway, it was just kind of by chance that I ended up doing it and loved it and was like, I'm going to be a marathon runner. And then decided when I was going to play beach volleyball, I couldn't jump anymore. So I was like, distance running and jumping don't go so well together. So I'm like, I'll come back to it when I retire. And then my knees have since had other plans, and no more running for me.
Yeah, bike riding it is.
Yes, yeah.
That's such a highlight though. I think like Boston Marathon, right? It's usually in April, if I'm not mistaken. And it's one of those things where like, oh, I would love to go do that. And then I look at it and I'm like, well, if I coach beach volleyball for the rest of my life, collegiately, I will never run the Boston Marathon, right? Just
Yeah.
like chalk it up to not going to happen.
Yeah.
So the fact that you were able to squeeze it in uh,
Yeah, by
is
chance
awesome.
almost, yeah. But
Uh,
it was it's such a special event too. Like just the amount of people who come out and support. I think at the time, this was in 2001, they said it was like a 500,000 people were there, like lining the streets, like just cheering. And there were like streets that you'd run through, and it was people like 15 deep, just screaming and yelling. And I'll never forget running through one of the colleges, and it was deafening, and I just get chills and tears start streaming down my face because it was just such an it was like right at the halfway point, and it was just such an emotional, like all these people out supporting and cheering on runners, and I don't know, it was just so cool. It was such a really neat special experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's got to be, I dare I say, top three athletic moment in your career, but you've had quite a few. Talk to us about, was there something at Notre Dame that really was like, okay, this is the moment for me? Or is there something on the AVP or the FIVB? And then obviously your coaching career is probably riddled with a couple of moments as well.
Yeah. You know, in all fairness, I think that Boston Marathon was the most unique experience that I had. Because it wasn't my sport, it wasn't my thing, so it was so special in a totally different way. So like for a long time, that has kind of been my peak moment as an athlete, which is just really, really cool. I think another time that really stands out was my first final on the AVP, making the Chicago final, which is close to, being an Indiana girl, kind of close to
Yeah.
home, as close to home as we got. So that was that was also really special. Um, and then maybe internationally, actually one my first international tournament with Tyra, we ended up finishing fourth, and it was just kind of like unexpected. We went over, made the semifinal, and got to play for a chance at a medal, and that was just something really special too. It was like, oh my gosh, we're here, we can do this, and so that was, yeah, that was definitely another really important moment for me.
Help justify some of that international money. Those first couple
Yeah,
tournaments, you're like, gosh, we're gonna go over there, we're gonna play the country quota, we're gonna play the qualifier, and hope for lucky losers or random
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And
So
it was crazy too at that time. Like somebody new shows up on tour, and all of a sudden you've got everybody's camera on your court. So every match we had, would there'd be like 15 cameras all recording the match, and just like, oh, it's like who's new out there, and everybody's scouting you. So it's funny.
are these new girls worth a darn? What do we get to know
Yeah,
about them? And then they make a semifinal, and you're like, okay, we do have to pay attention to them.
yeah,
I'm sure that's how everybody feels about the Swedish boys,
yeah,
Anderson and I forget his partner's name, but like they just won. Was that Baden in Austria? Like that's a great finish for a couple of young dudes who were playing the Pompano Futures
yeah.
10
It's
months ago.
pretty crazy. Something's in the water over there. I want to know what it is.
Yeah. Well, that of course brings up, I think, one of the really big highlights. So you and your husband met at Notre Dame, right?
Yep,
Um, and then when you were saying that we lived in Atlanta and then we moved to San Francisco, that was because he was playing in the NFL,
yep.
right? Okay. And then you pick up AVP and then you finish your AVP career and you were like, hey, what if we moved to Amsterdam? Um,
Well, kind of.
kind of. Yeah. Tell us how
Kind of.
that whole thing shakes out. How do you end up working with the Dutch national team?
So my career ended with a knee injury. My last season playing, I had one initial surgery a couple weeks before the season started, with a pretty significant. My meniscus had torn from a meniscal root and it needed to be reattached again. But the main surgery to fix it was going to require a really long time recovery and not weight bearing, and just a long time. So I wanted to play my final season. So the doctor just went and kind of cleaned it up a bit and put things back in place. And I ended up competing that last season and probably doing a lot more damage than had I just got it taken care of from the start. But anyway, I got to finish my last season. Had the surgery. I was 3 months non-weight bearing and questioning my next move in life. And pretty depressed about it too, just not knowing what was next, what I wanted to do. I ended up working for Leonard Armato with the World Series of Beach Volleyball and was just helping put on that event. Um, and with the event, it's all the teams coming over. Part of my job was like the helping with the social media and integrating the teams and promoting the teams and all that. And because I had just played on the FIVB tour, I knew most of them. So had a an evening dinner, just meeting up with old friends that happened to be Laura Ludwig and Morph Bose. And Morph was coaching the Dutch at the time and was just asking like, what's up? Like what's next? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. And he'd asked like if I had any interest in coaching maybe internationally. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. So he went back to the Dutch Federation and was trying to work on getting an assistant coach position approved over there. And it took a while. It took about 6 months, but they actually went through and did it, got it approved. And then shortly after, I got my work visa and moved over, and that was the start really of my coaching career.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of went from being in the right place at the right time.
So we get to blame you for the current tear of young Dutch athletes that are terrorizing the FIVB right now. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not at all. Not at all. No, they have a great program over there. That's where, I learned a lot, just starting out how to be a coach, and that was kind of my training ground. And it was a really great experience to just learn a new culture and see what they're doing over there. And there's, yeah, they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of great coaches over there, so they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's got to be most impressive, it's a really small country, all things
Yeah.
considered. I mean, when you consider the US and then the Brazilian landscape, right, the Netherlands is rather petite. What is one of the things that helps them kind of overcome that gap? Is it just that volleyball is more popular than a lot of other sports, or is there's some kind of secret training method that's working out there?
Well, volleyball definitely is really popular over there, but they face the same challenges that we do in the U.S., where a lot of the athletes are either indoor or beach. And once they get to a certain level, everybody's fighting over them, right? You want your best athletes, the indoor coach wants them indoor, and the beach coach wants them on the beach. So they still struggle with all of that, but they try to have early exposure to both when they're at a younger age, and then ultimately it's up to the athlete which direction they want to go. So you got to be really good at sales and make sure that you're presenting a really nice picture for them,
Yeah,
to get them to lean one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, I think the Netherlands in general, if you look at medal counts in the Olympics, like they take their sports very seriously. They have a lot of support from the government and from their Olympic committee. They invest a lot into the development of their athletes, and it pays off.
Okay, so investing in the success of athletes pays off in medals. Okay, good to check that down. If any administrators are listening, investment pays off. I think as we move into the next phase of your career, I'm sure we'll find that theme to continue. So you help with the Dutch team for what, like a year before Rio? Um,
I started in 2015. Yep.
okay. So 15 into Rio, you're kind of still getting probably a feel for things. I mean, after 9 months, you probably have a decent idea of how a pair works, but what is kind of that experience of taking a group of people that I don't know how good your Dutch is. I went to Amsterdam for the first time over summer, and I will say Dutch was the most challenging language that I had while I was out there.
A lot of
Um,
funny pronunciations.
long words,
Yes.
such long words.
Yes.
A street should not have 9 syllables in it. That's my so humble opinion. But um, anyway, you kind of go and you're trying to learn the language and you're communicating with new athletes and like any coach will say, it takes a minute to learn how an athlete likes to be worked with and directed and then you have to take them to the biggest tournament of their career. How does that process go for you as somebody who's, I think, a very curious coach and somebody that does a great job connecting?
No, thank you. I think so. First, the experience, they all speak perfect English. So while I did want to learn Dutch and put a lot of effort into learning, they all speak perfect English. So a lot of times we just default back. And so I did have a tutor and did put some effort in, and I can read a children's book. So
There you go.
there is some crossover carryover there from, and I still practice my Duolingo every day. Um,
Nice.
but as far as like what the important conversations all pretty much took place in English. But we had an interesting journey the way it all started out. So I was originally brought over to be the assistant coach and work with Morph, and we had three teams that we were working with. And something happened with the top team and Morph. There were some internal disagreements and just some pretty big rough patches that they couldn't move past. So about 4 months into my journey there, we made the decision that I would go with that team, and we would kind of basically part ways. And he would coach the other two teams, and I would coach that other team. So that other team was Madeline Meppelink and Marlene Van Eersel. And so those were girls that I competed against towards the end of my career. When I said that first FIVB tournament that I played in, I actually lost the bronze medal match to Marlene. That was her, I think she was maybe 18 or 19 years old, and that was her first tournament. Early in FIB as well, and ended up losing the medal to her. So that was all. A lot of it had come full circle. Um, but anyway, they respected me as a player, and then I think having had a little bit of them knowing that okay, I'd been through it as a player myself, coming from an American mentality, which is a lot different than the Dutch mentality. Um, it fit with it fit with the team, and we were able to kind of navigate um, through some of the challenges. Like I would say the biggest difference, like with the Dutch Federation, is that it's a coach-driven federation. The biggest difference with America, it's pretty much player-driven, right? The players are making the decisions. And so when you're butting heads in those situations, my default would be like, it's a player-driven sport. So I would let them make a lot of those decisions. And I think they kind of appreciated having a little bit more autonomy and say in how things were going to go with our three-person dynamic there. So it ended up working out pretty well, but it was challenging then going into the Olympics because it was the three of us. I was a super inexperienced coach, and the American like let's dream big, have big goals going in. We really wanted a medal. They had won, I think, six medals on tour in the course of those 2 years leading up to the Olympics. So it certainly felt possible.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the Olympics, we lost a tough three-setter to a really good Swiss team that was kind of caught fire, and it was really difficult. We finished ninth place, and that was really heartbreaking for all of us. So it was a hard one to swallow, but learned a ton of lessons from that loss, and yeah, was able to kind of rebound and come back and share those lessons and move forward.
Yeah. And that was still, I think, the best finish by the Dutch women's side, right? Like you guys, the other pair didn't break pool, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, still all in all from a country, obviously you want a medal. You're kind of, Rio's like, okay, who's going to take over since Misty finally is retired? Like who's going to win a gold medal? Nobody in the last 16 years has watched anybody else do it. So who are we gonna see? And Laura, who's been mentioned previously, I would say been a really good defender, and she showed out and got that done.
Yeah,
Um, some nice foreshadowing is the bronze medal match there takes place between an April Ross and Carrie Walsh in her final Olympics. Um, and then they took on Brazil. But you stay with the Dutch for what I imagine was planning to be another quad.
yeah,
And you and Jen Kessie have possibly the coolest crossover wraparound. Hey, we're gonna move because we're done with this sector of our life after 2020, and then 2020 was pushed to 2021, but that position in life couldn't change, and so Jen goes and takes over a fish farm in Maine, or a fish
yeah,
farm. Yeah, I wasn't
yeah,
in a bed and breakfast if I remember correctly. Um, and she leaves this team that's set to be the number one pair at the Olympics in April and Alex, and here you come able to fill that role. How does that conversation? How's it go with a team that's, hey, we've worked together for 4 years. You mind finishing off the
yeah.
run?
Yeah, that was such a weird, hard time. I think what everybody kind of understood was we all have lives and family comes first. And so my husband needed to move back to the US, and I didn't want to stay another year there without him. So they completely understood that and was like, it's not something that I can do virtually. So I have to step away and say goodbye. And everybody understood. We didn't even know. I mean, at that time, the Olympics were postponed, but who knew if they were even going to happen?
Yeah. No.
So we made that decision, and I said goodbye to my team. And then the situation arose where April and Alex were in the same position, and with Jen leaving, and it just kind of those pieces kind of just fell into place. But again, it was kind of nobody knew what was going to happen. Like are the Olympics going to happen or not? And yeah, so it was such a weird time. It didn't feel, my Dutch girls were actually really excited for me. I was so scared and like didn't know how they were going to react when I told them all about it. And they were all genuinely so happy and excited for me. And it was like, great, we get to see you on tour still. So that was really really awesome. And we ended up playing them in the Olympics, and they were the only team to actually take a set off of April and Alex, which I was super proud of. And yeah, that was pretty cool.
As much of a win-win as you could
Yeah.
find in that. And a little bit of a revenge, right? Because was she on the Swiss pair that took you guys down, or was it Huberly that in
It was, I
16?
believe, no, it was a nuke and she's retired now, but she retired and had twins. I can't remember her name at the moment.
Yeah, but
Um,
anyway, it's such a fun like okay, hey, we got the revenge on the Swiss team,
yeah.
lead us to a gold medal. Um, dare I say a coaching highlight, number one coaching moment thus far. We can say thus far, but winning a gold medal with your team, how does that experience relate? Not being able to be in the box, but still being like, hey, we did
Yeah.
that.
It was super, super special. It was really, really cool. But I would say like my role on that team was a lot different than what I would say like that team didn't necessarily need um they needed to trust themselves. And
Mm,
I felt like my role was more to come in, keep them together and keep them healthy and on the same page and just doing what they do. Like I didn't want to come in stir the pot and like do anything that was going to like throw them off of like they were already really good. Their challenges were staying healthy and um yeah, and kind of getting through some maybe some heat and humidity at tournaments and just
mm.
some different challenges along the way. So I didn't really want to do too much with their volleyball. Like if anything, I just didn't want to screw them up. So I would say the from the coaching perspective, it's almost more like managing as opposed to like really coaching. Like I feel like they were pretty good at coaching themselves too. So it's a different feeling. It was super fun to be a part of. I learned so much from them too, just about mentality, like getting out there winning and the focus and all of it that it takes. Like it was incredible to be around them and be exposed to just how they did things, and I'm forever grateful for that. But like I can't really say that I coached all that much with that because it was just a different role, honestly, is how I approached it and what I felt that they needed.
Yeah,
I,
dare I say, being a good coach is not screwing it up, right?
I think it's super interesting how you talked about like the different roles that you can play as a coach and how each situation you were in was a little different. Do you remember some of the factors when you were transitioning from player to coach that went into that decision of do I really want to coach and what do I want out of this? And then as your career has gone, like how have those adapted?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I really knew what coaching was when I first started because it was really different in the US. It was more transactional and it was more just like a pay by the hour. You come to practice and kind of like like it was just way more transactional. And I think what I love about it so much is the deep connection part of it. And that's what I learned in the Netherlands was like no, this is our teams. We do year planning. We're together all the time, traveling, doing all sorts of team bonding and team building stuff. And it was really different. And so I think like that's what I truly love about the coaching aspect is that you're coaching people and not just players. And you have an opportunity to affect maybe how they think under pressure, which might help them in the schoolroom or help them in later in life facing something else. And I think it's those life lessons that like that leave a bigger and almost more important impact, but you learn all those lessons through sport. And so through our way, through sport, we get
Yeah.
to do all those really cool things that are just fun and build connection and self-confidence and all those other things.
It's almost no doubt that you started coaching college because I think it's one of the biggest impactful moments of doing all those things, right? And so you jump in with LMU and John Mayer and you start coaching those youth athletes. What's kind of been the biggest surprise, the biggest difference maybe between, okay, this is how the professional system works and this is how it
Yeah.
works at a university system.
Well, I was in shock moving because I was used to working with two athletes or four max. And then all of a sudden you get to the college game and there's like court after court after court. And there's, like a team of 18 to 20. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many people. How do we manage all of this? And how do you get to know everybody? And how do you, like for me, like I really want the connection before I jump in, like build trust and all that before we're, talking so much volleyball and all that. So I don't know. It was such a shock. I came in January too, and it was like, right, we're just starting season and starting competition. So I didn't have a fall to build rapport and get to know them and kind of like get used to the whole thing. So, my LMU experience was my coaching 101 as far as, like jumping into all that and just learning so much, from John and how he runs the program at LMU. And it was really awesome. It was difficult, but it was really fun and great lessons along the way. And um, I guess I look at it all too as just part of my evolution and the things that I learned that helped me get to where I'm going. And so yeah, it's really different in the fact that like you got a lot more people. You're managing more. You're managing. Gosh, a team, what's so interesting, like the professional, you choose your partner, you have so much say in that regard. I mean, maybe not in a different federation, but and if you have a smaller pool of athletes to choose from, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're a little bit more in control there. And at the college level, it's like you might have a little bit of a say in it, but ultimately the coach is putting together the lineup, and it's a
Yeah.
lineup, there's five teams, not just one. And so like there's just so much more that goes into that whole big team dynamic versus just small two-person dynamic. So teaching the athletes that it's a team sport as well, and you can't be so selfish. And like there's just so much, as you guys know, so much that goes into it. But to me, that's all the really, really fun stuff. That's the fun part.
You mentioned
Figuring
the
out that
bonding
puzzle.
activities that you guys would do in the Netherlands and all that. Like, how much of that have you brought over to your places that you've worked, or like, what are some good ideas for coaches out there, me included, like for those team bonding activities? I've been
Yeah.
getting that question all the time during recruiting process, and I'm just like, it's kind of what our team is finding and what's available to us. But like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's part of it, and part of it is listening to them and how they
yeah,
like to connect. So, like on our current team, they love having meals together. And so then, it's about arranging those meals and making sure that phones are not brought to the table and people aren't just like nose buried in their phone, but they're actually connecting and talking to each other. And so I think it's kind of again like meeting them where they're at too. Some like to play games and go on um like obstacle courses and do like challenging things like that, and others really don't. Our team now really loves arts and crafts too. So I think a lot of it is getting them outside their comfort zone, doing some fun things, but also um yeah, it's sometimes it doesn't have to be so complicated. It can be really as simple as like just sharing a meal together.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think our
that's
two
awesome.
biggest team bonding things we did last year that really worked for us was a bonfire where everyone loved to make s'mores and they were all judging each other of how they liked the marshmallow cooked. And then we did
Uh-huh.
a pierogi night here at the house where I taught them how to make pierogies, and food started flying on that one. So yeah,
That's
it,
awesome.
it was always fun.
Food is a great
Yes.
uniter. Everybody
Yes, it
gets
is.
around a
Yeah.
good meal. Anybody can get behind it, regardless of where you're from.
Yep.
Uh, Angie, I think it's no surprise to anybody listening, but like Texas had a pretty great year last year. It'd be safe to say that you were definitely a big part of that. The way you see the game, the way that you go about training the game, tell us a little bit about what makes your style unique. What makes the way Angie Akers teaches volleyball different and tickles athletes' brains in a different way.
Um, Gosh, you probably have to ask them that question, but I think part of my personality is that I've never believed in one way of doing something. I've always kind of believed in how a person, like how individual we are. We all do things slightly different. So I think there's a little bit more of a freedom that I I give them like some room to explore, and I think they like trying new things um, and maybe creating a safe space to get outside their comfort zone and really try some different stuff. And I'm not a screamer and yeller, so like I think that maybe I can create a safe space that they feel like, okay, I can be creative and I can try some things and I'm not going to get reprimanded or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I think they know I can bring in intensity and I'm competitive. And so like I can push them. Um, but I'm on their team. I'm on their side. They're not like afraid of me. And I think that goes with my personality as well. And I don't love conflict. So I'm not well, I used to be afraid of conflict. I'm not as afraid of it as I used to be, but um yeah, I'd like to have fun and I think that comes through in how I coach. At least I hope.
Yeah, I think one of the most fun things I've ever seen, and ironically enough, this is a great example of doing a drill is not always just a copycat thing. But I stole all jump. We did the all jump drill at a P413 clinic a couple years ago, and I brought that to my squad, and I tried to like explain what I was hoping to get out of it, and my team hates it. It is their least favorite thing on the planet. But it's just a great example of just because you know what a good coach does as a drill doesn't mean you can execute that drill in the same way. Sometimes it's how you explain it, how you convince it, and the environment you've set up. But I think that's a great example watching those athletes explore what they can accomplish while being in a non-traditional position was really fun to see athletes try and to see you kind of deliberate how to make that happen and then even tweaking it a little bit further. What's your process for trying to get athletes to tweak? How do you tweak things in your drills or throughout your practice to open up their creativity if they're maybe a little resistant to difference at first?
I guess my first go-to would be to make some sort of rule in the game that completely eliminates what their solution is, and so that they are forced into having to try a different solution.
Hmm.
Um, and if they're still resistant or whatever, might just let it go and then ask later, like, hey, I noticed you're a little resistant. What's, like, tell me about it, or what are you resistant to? And just kind of like ask them in sort of a non-threatening way so that it gives them an opportunity. Because what I've noticed with a lot of athletes, they're not really quick to process all the time. Like they need some time to think about it for it to make sense in their head. Like, why am I doing this? And then come back and go, oh, okay, and then try it. So, like with those athletes in particular, I just try to be a little bit more patient um, and give them some, not demand that they do something, but give them some ideas of other things to try and realize it's going to be a slow, like it might not be today, and they're not moving at my pace. They're going to move at their own pace and just try not to. I know we can get really impatient too. We're like, we got to play tomorrow. We got to get this or whatever. Um, but at the end of the day, I think they're the one out on the court who has to compete. And if they're not agreeing with what I'm saying and it creates tension or whatever, then that's not helping anyone. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're gonna get them to make those changes and put yourself at the top of the MPSF this year or the top of the national championship? Can you get those changes to go the way you need them to go this year?
oh, I mean, I think we're gonna have a lot of challenges in front of us. I think we're gonna have a very talented team, and so with the talented team, like we're gonna have challenges with, making sure that our culture's in place, and last year we had a really amazing culture, and we work really, really hard at that. So we intend to do that as well this year. And then you know how it is, it's staying healthy and it's not always just about have being good and having talent, and so you got to work for it. And so hopefully the whole team's willing to put in the work and then have a little bit of luck along the way and see what happens.
Yeah, you guys definitely have the horses to win the race. There's a lot of talent on that roster. I know every year I look at I look at the Texas recruiting class, and then I look at the Texas roster, and I'm like, okay, that's going to be a solid. Oh, that's going to be their force pair. Oh, all right. It's a little bit like looking at TCU last year, and you're like, is Zuza's going to be in the four? Like, how does that work? Man. So that'll be awesome. But Angie, we really appreciate you. We ask a question to everybody that comes on, and I'd love to hear it from you. What do you want to see out of our sport next? Collegiately, internationally, beach volleyball as a whole. What do you want to see out of our sport next?
I want to see more opportunity after college for athletes, more opportunity at the professional level. I think it's thriving and doing really well at the youth and NCAA. The level's so good, so high, and then it just kind of seems like there's no place to go and or minimal opportunities. So I would love to see it grow, just more opportunity at the top of the game, and then that would drive even more people, I think, to want to play and yeah, I don't know the answer to how to get that done, but that's what I would love to see.
Yeah. Let's get some more opportunities out there and create another professional level for ourselves.
Yeah. How about you guys? Can I hear your answers?
Yeah, Michael, what do you got?
I was just say exposure for us is I think that's a pretty big one of just making sure people know how tournaments are run and what tournaments are local or even getting them onto TV. I think we've heard that answer quite often and getting them more uh, time because like our athletes are all very very gifted both academically and athletically and they just don't seem to be able to gain that exposure that other sports have been able to do. So I think getting them that exposure, especially in the new NIL space, could really promote our game and help these athletes even after their careers are done, be able
Yeah.
to go into different jobs because of that exposure.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. I'd love to see more accessibility. I think everybody has seen the court in their town park or apartment complex that is sad and covered in weeds and very downtrodden. And I think it's a great sport uh, that people can really enjoy regardless of the format. And sometimes beach volleyball people get really caught up on, and this is such a terrible thing to say, but the rules. Like, I don't know, when you're introducing somebody to the sport, who cares if they double? Who cares if it's a lift? Who cares if there's seven people on the court or four or three or set or eight? Who cares? Like it's such a fun sport, and I think one of the most enjoyable things I ever saw was living in Southern California and playing those fours games, but ABCD format, and the D was always like somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend that had never played volleyball before, and you're playing ace, and so the whole objective is, hey, your job, Tim, is to touch the ball. Like, don't let it hit the sand so we don't have to drink. I think, and obviously that's the adult version, but I think the accessibility piece will be big for the growth of our game. And I think if I can get our AD to play a couple of games of beach volleyball, he's probably more likely to want to support our sport more. I think it's just a simple way. We watch people love it all the time.
Yeah.
We just got to give them a chance to love it and not,
Yeah.
that's a double. It's not allowed. I don't care. Chuck the ball up
Agreed.
there. Hit it with your head. I don't play the game. So that's my big hope.
Hmm. Well, maybe you can hold a tournament that's like no referees, all everything goes, and
So in your honor at P413 this last year, I played a 6 versus 2 game. No, I played 2 versus 4. The side with 4 had to play with volleyball rules, and the side with 2 had no rules. And we gave them as much creativity as they could muster. And I think it was really great if I ever had like a group of older athletes and a group of younger athletes. I'd give the younger athletes no rules, and I'd make the older kids play with the rules and do stuff like that.
that sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and I hope I personally think the world of you as a coach, as a human being, and I'm so grateful to be able to shoot you a text and ask you to come do a Zoom call with me and Michael, and you say yes. That's so great for me, and so we really appreciate it, and we're so excited to see what you and your Texas Longhorns do this year.
Well, thanks, guys, and thanks for everything that you do for the sport too. It's nice to that you got this podcast going too, and just another voice out there promoting the sport and helping every little way that we all can, right? Just
Exactly.
keep
Thanks a
moving
bunch.
forward.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.